You're listening to the Trade Show Insights Podcast, Season 15, Episode 14. I'm your host and exhibit marketing strategist, Marlis Arnold, bringing you tools to improve your exhibit results. On today's episode, another rebroadcast of our virtual lunch in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe, we've got Jim Gilmore, author of The Experience Economy, talking about ways to create experiences now. I actually was first introduced to the experience economy 20 years ago. A good friend of mine came to me, and she works at a museum, and she came to me and she said, I have been reading this great book, and I think it would be really relevant for you in the trade show industry. It's called The Experience Economy. And so anyway, so she recommended that I go take a look at it. So I read it, and I was so impressed. It was so much the things I was already thinking about, multisensory marketing and using themes and engagement techniques. And, it was like somebody just took all that and put it into such a great, logical format. And I was so impressed. And so, then when I was working on my book, Build a Better Trade Show Image, I connected with Jim and Joe and got permission, Jim Gilmore and Joe Pine, and got permission to use some quotes from their book in my book. So, and since then, I've recommended the book to thousands of exhibitors across the country at my exhibitor workshops and webinars. And then I also, when I did my second book, Exhibit Design That Works, I actually included a whole section on multisensory marketing. I mean, that's how important I think this is. And so anyway, so today I'm very excited to have Gilmore here. And so Jim he's probably well known to a lot of you. He's been an instructor at Exhibitor Live for many years. He's also a professor at Case Western Reserve University, and he also lectures at the Darden Graduate School of Business at the University of Virginia. In addition to Experience Economy, which also came out last year, the 20th edition of the book. Or the 20th anniversary, I should say. He's also the author of Authenticity, What Customers Really Want, again with Joe Pine. And his latest book, which I haven't seen this one yet, is Look, A Practical Guide for Improving Your Observational Skills. So welcome to the virtual lunch today.
All right. Thank you for having me. And thank you for being such a proponent of experiences. And I'm always honored and flattered when people are able to use the book and promote the book. And you, like everybody else tuning in here, what I often like to say is that you all do what I merely write about. So, you're the folks on the ground that actually make this stuff happen. So I appreciate the industry very much. It's in business to business, trade shows are the core experience, long established, vitally important, and they're needed. So anyway, glad to be with you.
Well, thanks, Jim. It's so good to have you here. And I know, you've got a wealth of ideas, and right now we're in such a weird position because, we're trying to be experiential, but it's much more challenging. And, and then moving forward, we're even going to still have some challenges. So do you think, has customer behavior forever changed, or is this something that we're going to just ride it out and then it'll be more like what we're used to? Well, or I know that's the $64 million question.
Exactly. For those who remember the rigged game show. At least I heard that from my father growing up. So, I don't feign to have any inside scoop on what's going to emerge from this. Obviously, like everybody, been thinking about, what are the implications of all this, first, thinking about all the folks who have been immediately affected, lost their jobs, and so forth. I will offer this, that I like to call this the Corona crisis. I think it is indeed a crisis. That's the term my co-author Joe Pine and I have decided to coin, or not, we didn't coin, but use. It's out there. And way I've been thinking about this is, what's next? I don't, is it going to be back to normal, a new normal? Things will never be the same. This changes everything. That might vary by industry. That might vary by company. And I think what I'm encouraging is, as difficult as it might be, is don't just think about what's next, but what's next. Don't just think post Corona crisis, but post Corona crisis. And let me frame it also this way. I do teach at Case West. So I just got done from 2 morning management classes with my undergraduates. I'm talking about paradigms, interestingly enough. And it's Peter Drucker influences how I structure that course greatly. And Peter Drucker is fond of saying that all innovation comes from recognizing discontinuities. There's some change afoot in technology and process technology and demographics and attitudes. And clearly your question is one of, will we have any changed behavior and attitudes? And I like to say that what we're going through right now is not a discontinuity. It's actually one giant disruption from which a multiplicity of discontinuities may emerge. So to me, it's like my book on Look. It's to be watchful, to be looking for, first, identify all the different sets of behaviors that are happening, not just in this industry, but throughout culture, and then determining how much that's going to be sustained and endured. How much will people say too much of that and go back? Will we see hybrid models? I think it's too hard to tell. And I think individual behavior, we're all participants in this. I will say this, the 2 points I will make. The experience economy has been most adversely affected by this. Travel is the most important, travel and tourism, the most important part of the experience economy, which is the most important part of the economy. Clearly, hotels, airlines, conventions, meetings have been decimated by all this. And to me, it's proof of what we talked about. We said, look,
exactly.
We said a prosperous economy is necessary to have a prosperous economy. And until those sectors come back, we will not see a robust economy again. And as we pursue bringing back more experiences, the bar will be raised. The newly released hard copy that you held up, the white cover, has a brand new preface that Joe and I worked real hard. There's some really good new thinking in there, I do believe. And one of the things we said in the new preface is that every business has the same number one competitor, and that's the smartphone. And now I will add to that there's a second competitor. Perhaps it's the kissing cousin of the smartphone, and that's staying at home. So the bar will be raised, and that's stay at home physically or stay at home at your company. The bar will be raised in terms of what it will take for people to deem it worthwhile to go elsewhere versus staying put. So we now have 2 large forces at play. With the smartphone, if you're not engaging people in the moment with a tap of the screen or the swipe of the screen, you can be gone elsewhere, right? That's why it's a competitor. And now, if what you say about, if your experiences to attract and entice people are not compelling, they may not go. And I think that we may have to shift our focus to a lot of the it's a whole separate experience to talk about attracting and enticing that we may have taken for granted.
Right.
People go every year, and we may have to not just design for during the event, but have to be a lot more aggressive, frankly, and thinking robustly about all that upfront. My friends at Merritt's Travel take the attracting phase of experience, and they divide it to announcing, and then after you register, anticipating. They break it down to multiple stages because they realize that front end is vitally important in normal times, and now it's expected. So.
Well, and a good example of that, actually, I'm signed up for a conference on Thursday this week, and just yesterday I got my event kit delivered.
Physical.
And so, Yeah,
Physical
physical
stuff,
event
very good.
kit was delivered, and good sized box. And so I opened the box. It's all wrapped in black tissue with a note on top that says no peeking. We're going to open this together as part
Yeah,
of the experience on
very good.
Thursday.
Very good.
So, I'm being a good girl and I didn't open it, but it's like it's heightened that anticipation. I'm like, how long is it now until we can open it?
Right. Exactly. And those things cannot be gimmicky. It's best if it's tied back into later in the event.
Mhm.
Right. By the way, it's the same with the giveaways we have in the trade show, all the tchotchkes and souvenirs. I mean, we write in the book about mix-in memorabilia. It's better to actually use a physical thing during the experience and attach your memory to it. So whatever they mail
Yes.
you, it's best if it's used during the event. I was a surprise guest at a friend who was doing a keynote at a conference. It was college admissions conference. And I said, Jeff, I'll help you out. You're going to Zoom the thing. I said, I'll be when you talk about the experience economy, let me be a surprise guest. So I came in, and what they told me is it was like they made their conference virtual, and it was going to be in Chicago. They mailed everybody a huge tin of Garrett's popcorn and said, make sure you're eating the popcorn.
Oh, clever.
Right. So I'm sure some people kept the tin because this is the tin I ate from when I was at the, and so you definitely the physical, we need to augment the virtual with the physical, but you can't, but doing it's not enough. You have to think very intelligently about how you can take the things you mail and integrate them into the event itself. Probably always been the case, but again, now it's especially true.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see how they implement all of these, and augment all of the items in the kit. And on one side, it kind of, puts a little more pressure. It's like, after all this anticipation, if what's in the kit isn't that
Right.
impressive, then
Right.
it kind of defeats the whole purpose. But if it's done very well, I've got another conference coming up later in the month that's also doing a kit, and they have really hyped the kit. I mean, it's like, because it's an optional thing, or no, I guess it wasn't an optional thing. It was like you couldn't do the conference without buying the kit as well. And so it's like, wow, this must be really impressive because it's like $49 just for the kit. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot there to work with. The physical augmenting the virtual is necessary, and I think is a challenge. You got like all of this, you have to do it well.
Yes. Yes. Well, so what other examples have you seen then, since we are in the kind of the experience economy is a little bit in limbo because we miss the full multi-sensory experience with the taste and smell and touch, but by augmenting it in some of these ways, what else have you seen done for virtual?
Well, like with these kits, we talk about the multi-senses. A sense of taste and touch can be evoked, right? To use your physical and your audio cues to create a sense. You can ask yourself, if we were serving food, what kind of food would it be, and sort of bring that feel to things as part of theming, part of harmonizing cues. Right now, what I've been focused on in my personal work, because I teach, is Zoom is our platform. Is just I'm doing a lot. What's nice about teaching, I can do a lot of experimentation on basically how to conduct that time differently. I mean, I have not only Zoom fatigue, I've got Zoom scheduling fatigue. I mean, keeping track of all this stuff, and then if you use Teams or Meeting, whatever Microsoft is called, the emails don't even tell you what time it is. It just gives you the link. So I got to look at a separate email to figure out when it is. Like, ugh. So when people do participate, it's like the 4E model of chapter 2 of the book. You've got to, I think it's not just educational. Again, it's the same thing when you're face to face. It needs to be entertaining, to hold people's attention. It's inherently a sense of escape, right? Aesthetic. I've been fascinated with backgrounds. Like there is the carefully crafted, where you place, like I do. There's of course the bookshelf version, which is, I think, virtue signaling. I sometimes do that for my office. There's the I don't care what it is, Mr. Forehead. Literally, my students, some of them, they're so used to be on laptops and streaming, they really don't care where it's at. There's the all white, right, which I also think is virtual signaling. I'm above all this. So I think background is an opportunity to think about theming. I had students give a presentation on their own initiative. They had to design a a hotel for the Dollar Tree. I make them as their design project, design a hotel for major brands. They all wore green, had green backgrounds, not green screen, like they did green.
Uh,
So backgrounds, props.
yes.
A little story. If you ask my kids who their favorite teacher was at the Ratner School, K-8, sort of Montessori-based school, they all go, Mr. P. And I don't even know Mr. P's name. He's Mr. P even to parents. And they say, well, why do you like Mr. P? Oh, he's funny. See, he uses humor to keep them attentive, right? It's versus when my son went to high school and I had the first parent-teacher conference with his algebra teacher. Within 60 seconds, I'm like, no wonder he's not learning. You're boring.
Yeah.
Right? So here's my latest character I brought to the classroom today. And I had all the students as upon entering the class, say, like, help me name them, go into I got to work on my dynamic. Like, I was inspired by a student that came into class from the side like this. Right? Again, not every organization is going to take it. I'm not saying to be gimmicky. I have a reason for it. In fact, I bought these little figure puppets, rock, scissors, paper, because later in the class, I used rock, scissors, paper as a most simple loop, right? One beats the other around in a circle. There's an architectural theory of rock, scissors, paper. So again, it has to be tied to your content if you can. And I'm going to be talking about props later in the class. So yes, those entertainment value, I think don't dismiss it. In fact, here's the biggest thing I miss about this medium is there's no collective laughter because one voice, the speaker dominates the audio. And I so miss it. And last week it hit me, and this attests to the value of physical space. Last week it dawned on me because I was like, okay, any questions from the class? I get nothing. And really, I've lost the ability to use my bodily movement to move towards a person, to go next to a person, to stand in the back room and face the way they are, to use where you place yourself in the space as a mechanism. By the way, that's probably something, having learned that in this space, to take that in the physical space of a trade show.
Yeah.
Right. So there will be some lessons learned, like, oh, we should be doing that all the time. I told you this when we talked earlier. I've had ideas for trade shows that, like, I've voiced in the umpteen years I've been at an exhibitor show. It doesn't happen. And now people will do is like, it took this.
Yes.
To realize things we should have been doing all along. Like, I've always thought, you got a booth, you got 7 manufacturing plants. Why don't we have the ability to pipe in all plant managers? If a question comes up, they don't have to all be in the booth. So that might happen. Just like in healthcare, it took this to realize there should be 0 waiting rooms. Like, why, when people are sick, we have them go in a commons area? It we have the mathematics to do appointment scheduling precisely enough and whisk people off to waiting rooms and design space to not put sick people with other sick people.
Yeah.
And hopefully somebody is using this time to say, why don't we do that all the time? And that my question is, people are going to lose their jobs. Some people in this space are going to go out of business. But if you can work hard and use this time to survive and to innovate, there's going to be an opportunity to create some great new experiences that do blend appropriately.
Yes.
The mixture of both.
Well, and on that, I've seen some of the virtual expos that have done a good job, like you said, of bringing in people that wouldn't otherwise be in the booth, that were able to either answer questions or, give tours of the plant, so they can actually see the facility behind the scenes, or, interact with, somebody from R&D or something that would never be in the booth on the show floor. So
exactly. That's exactly right. Or here's like a case that dawned on me. Like, I'm never going to have like joint office hours in the physical realm with a professor in the theater department, even though I talk about work as theater.
Right.
But virtually, I can be like, hey, why don't we hang out? Why don't we have office hours in the same room together? And students could join in a conversation that's never happened before.
Oh yeah.
But getting people to break their rules.
Yes.
I'm doing this for office hours. I stole it from Impractical Jokers, like one of the few shows I used to watch live. Besides Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, is that they ran out of episodes, so they started to have virtual dinner party together. I trying to have my first virtual dinner party office hours, maximum 7 people, because 8's the ideal dinner party, and for an hour, we're going to bring our meal and show what we have. And, I think, again, one of the best human experiences is to convene over food,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So dinners can be thought differently in this medium for event. Don't just go meet with the people you know before and sit at the same table with people you know before. We can now actually randomly put people at tables. And by the way,
Yes.
we could change that by course.
Yes. And there's
a lot more cumbersome in the physical realm, but we have a multi-course meal. Okay, scramble, scramble, scramble.
And there are some conferences and trade shows that have done some very innovative virtual happy hours that I've seen. But again, it takes that whole thing, like you said, they've got to think outside of, let's just take the physical and do this. It's like, no, you have to innovate and re-engineer.
Excellent point, Marlis. Excellent point. When I was with CSC Consulting, which is the firm that invented re-engineering, for those who've been around long enough to remember simultaneous rethinking of business process and technology. The argument before IT departments bastardized it and turned it into downsizing, the notion was to use the disruptive attributes of technology to design something new. And it was based on the notion that for decades, all the investment in technology had been used to automate current. You're exactly right. You can't just transfer your current practice. Mm-hmm. You have to look at the inherent properties of this medium and say, what can I do that I wasn't able to do before? And that's the thing to think. And then in the very process, simultaneously say, well, some of those practices can I transfer to the physical realm to make the physical realm more attractive in the future? Yeah, greater mix of people involved, mm-hmm. More random distribution of people. The best way to navigate, a trade show or a conference, if you have multiple people from the same company, is, you divide and conquer. You go to these sessions, you go to these sessions, we'll compare notes. If you're the sole representative from your company, you don't have that. Where's the upfront, we'll build your cohort. Where's the upfront diagnostic of what you're interested in? What are you shopping for? Okay. You again, we can use this medium to do that kind of thing. And maybe that kind of thing and maybe you meet together in a room before you go and compare notes because you've answered some questions, you've been teamed up. And so you plan your joint thing when you go. It's those kinds of things that I hope emerge from this, that we end up actually enhancing the physical realm. If it's just this, goodness gracious, that's like we all turn into Silicon Valley moles in our cubicles with no windows. I just can't live in that world.
Right. Right. Well, and Rama, Jim, you may not realize Rama is from Lev Promotions, which is a promotional products company. And so she says producing the kits have been keeping her busy the last few months. It's been such fun finding ways to tie in what's in the box to the themes, messaging, and goals of the event or meeting. And that is so, because I know that's what you stress in your books, and what I've always stressed to all my exhibitor clients is it's got to make sense. You can't just throw something in a box and call it good.
Think about kits, not just for home, but while you travel. If people are driving, you send them one kit for stuff that's, for in the car. If they're flying, send them stuff that it's like Mike Vance, who founded Disney University for Walt Disney, has this thing called Kitchen of the Mind. He used to have all these a little container full of things that he would use to like decorate his seat in the airline, suction cups on the window of a family picture and all this kind of stuff. And the flight would look at him like, "You're weird. Why would you do that?" And he'd go like, "Why are you not doing that?" Right. So, send some things to use on the plane if people are not just the safety things, but other, things as well. And post event, don't neglect the afterwards. Leaving events, my friend Greg Bowe at Merit Travel, or Merit Global Events, I should say, talks about for many conferences and trade shows, the final experience is your hotel bill. And if you read anything about peak moments or Conahan's, like the final moment, it's a horrible way to send people. What are some farewell rituals that can be introduced? And again, experiment in this medium, even in your meetings, right? Use your meetings to experiment as a laboratory for different kinds of group dynamics.
Well, and Rama says it's what we call strategic memorability.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, I love that.
I saw the TM on there. Is it Rama? Is that who?
Rama.
Rama. Use an EM for experience mark. It's not recognized by Congress. I've talked to lawyers about it, but There is, of course, TM for a physical good, SM for sales mark for services. Use EM. It's not protected. It would require legislation. I've often thought this is an industry that ought to contact your congressperson and lobby for the recognition officially of the EM mark. But our tagline is EM'd. I've got a few people practicing it. That's sidebar. But
that's very clever though, because it's true. I mean, an experience it's something that can be
physical good. TM
yeah.
is associated with a physical good. Again, it's a holdover, right?
So she says they are in the process of getting it officially registered.
That's your R.
Yeah,
but
right.
TM and SM and EM is not registered, so you might as well have an EM because it's just as protected as SM or TM until you get that R.
Until you get the R. That's a good point. That's a good point. Well, on the subject of the difference between goods and services and experiences, one question I get from exhibitors a lot is, how do I make it experiential when I'm selling a non-tangible something like a service? And so, we always it always involves another whole level of brainstorming to come up with ways. And sometimes it's not that hard for me to see, but for them. So what advice do you give to somebody who is not selling something that's obviously experiential?
Yeah, well, goods are tangible. Services are intangible, experiences are memorable. So it's inherently difficult to demo a service, right? You have to do a simulation or a role play. But even with the good, recognize it's the using of a good that is the experience. If I get my Yeti mug, it's the drinking experience or the keeping warm experience. So similarly, if you got a service, you can think about the using of the service, and think about it this way: what you need to demonstrate. Time is the currency of experiences, right? Services are what you do. Time is the experiences are the time that your customers, your clients have with you. So you need to think about literally designing the time as a way to demonstrate the nature of your services. So that could be role play, simulations, analogies, mock-ups. I've often thought, why aren't there more scale models in exhibits? Right, literally just scale, small representations of it, instead of pictures of things, dimensional. By the way, this is a medium to do that kind of experimentation. And here's how. I have a magician friend who's got two cameras, face on and then from the top, so you can see his table magic. I've got a client that's installed multi-camera. I've got someone with mobile camera, right? So the multi-camera angle at a scale model. Oh. Right. And maybe you build that scale model, something you actually can, because I've often thought, why are we not in a physical space and looking at the scale model together? Again, then you could depict the different steps along the process of the service. I've always thought we should have more miniaturization happening in trade show booths. Always thought that.
Well, and of course, now there's the virtual reality aspect too, where you can actually go into the model and walk around kind of thing. I mean,
I've always thought on the virtual reality on that if you do it really well and you have to do it well, then people will be just satisfied just in it. I mean, it's to use it to point to the other is I'm actually more fascinated with augmented reality.
Yes.
Right? Much more fascinated. And I've done augmented reality at Case with just a cadaver. I mean, it's amazing. They can highlight. You can see just the nervous system, just the skeletal system, just the muscle system. It's amazing. Yet you can still see everybody while you're doing it. So I'm much more fascinated with that. But
like you said,
you're still aware of the physical presence in augmented reality, versus virtual. You're gone. You could be anywhere.
Right. Well, that's true. And they have very different purposes. So again, it goes back to, what are you trying to accomplish? Which one is going to be the better tool? But there's so many resources and so many tools available that really, people don't have excuses anymore. I mean, 20 years ago, when you wrote the book the first time, there weren't all of the wonderful resources that people have now to actually bring these experiences to life in the way that we can.
I differ with my co-author a little bit. Joe Pine wrote a book called Infinite Possibility, his sort of technological view. I did not participate because I'm very critical of big data, big tech. And I wrote the preface to that book, and I basically challenged all organizations in that preface to ask themselves, is what you're doing promoting people to spend more time before a screen or less? Because I am definitely an advocate of spending less time on the screen. And that's just a value judgment.
Hmm.
That's a point of view, but as designers, I enjoy and spend most of my time trying to enhance the physical realm. The digital realm is winning. Silicon Valley is winning. But if you read books about the inner workings of Google, um, Facebook, I mean, quite frankly, I that heavily engineered algorithm mindset. Here, here, here's a book I'll recommend: World Without Mind. You get to the last
Hmm.
chapter, and the author calls for a paper revolution. If you don't want to Google to see your information, use paper. Kick it old school.
Yeah.
The more
Well, and
people do an email, a physical thing. I tell my students, you prepare a thoughtful letter and an enclosure to an executive looking for a job. Nobody does that. You'll stand out.
Well, and I know that this was several years ago, but when my husband Alan applied for a job, he interviewed and then he sent a physical thank you note and he got hired and it was on his boss's bulletin board. She said this was such a rare thing to actually get a physical thank you note.
It's your nostalgia point.
Yes.
In authenticity, we talk about polarity. In the age of things increasingly being automated and digitized, handwritten becomes authentic.
Yes.
An email. Thank you very much. It was great to see you. Like, yeah, fine. It probably doesn't even get opened.
Right.
From a friend that says thank you. Okay, good. They said thank you. I don't got time for this. I got to move on. Handwritten note, thoughtfully. I mean, it's just that's such a nice touch to do. You'd be surprised, and those things add up. Those things.
Yeah. It really, and it's true. I think it's what it's going to take going forward for trade shows and for everything is a balance of, we've learned now all of these potentials in the digital realm, but we need to figure out how to combine that with the physical realm going forward.
I mean, you started this by asking about sales before I did a tangent on a tangent on a tangent, as I'm one to do. But I think when it comes to sales, recognize step one is be human.
Yes.
We might be getting past it, but early on, nobody wanted to be sold to. There was no point, right? No one's buying. I mean, just reach out to your friends and empathize and say, what do you think we ought to do? I mean, be helpful. I mean, again, Drucker, purpose of business is to create a customer. Spend time with your customers, understanding needs, and truly. I mean, I actually think if you do marketing well, you don't have to sell as much. They're pre-sold, if you will. I also think if you have great experiences, you don't have to market. But now that that's been stripped away, those experiential opportunities, we do have to resort to marketing and sales. By the way, I have a high regard for sales as a profession. I tell my students to get a sales job out of school because the number one thing you'll do is you'll come away a more confident person.
Yeah.
Because the more rejected, the better presenter you'll be. And these kids have lived a life of not being rejected.
True.
They're good at everything. They got a trophy for every event.
Yes.
You're a loser. You lost.
Yeah. Well, on the subject of connecting, Jim, how other than I know your website Alan's going to put up is Strategic Horizons. What's the best way for people to reach out to you? LinkedIn, your website?
I have LinkedIn, but until recently, I accepted all invitations from LinkedIn indiscriminately, unless they were from Nigeria, and did nothing more. Based on a marketing firm who printed on the back of their business card, I look forward to ignoring you on LinkedIn. I dabble now. Send it to info@Strategic Horizons. It'll get forwarded on to me. If I could pitch a little bit of, you can go to Amazon, not just to get the books, but for my lookbook, there's a video posted of me being interviewed about look, but also Jonathan Mann, who holds the world record for the most consecutive days of writing a song, right? He did a music video on my 6 looking glasses tool. So for something fun, go to Amazon, click on Gilmore Authors page, and you'll see I think the look book itself as a page, but it's a fun little catchy tune. You might find yourself humming a bit. So that's a nice little, by the way, I've hired Jonathan to do gigs. He came to our final Think About event, attended the whole thing, and then he wrote a theme song to capture the entire 20 years of the event. It was like with a chorus everybody could learn to sing. It was phenomenal.
That is clever. That is very clever. Well, Jim, thank you so much for taking time out. I know you've had a busy day with classes all morning, so I thank you for taking time to join us here for virtual lunch. And we all hope to see you next year at Exhibitor Live in Vegas.
I hope so.
So,
And one last thing, because I'm
yes,
an advocate, wear the mask. Be
yes,
considerate of others. Wear the mask.
yes. That's how we're going to get our experience economy back.
Absolutely. And it's for others.
You can find all the links mentioned during our interview in this episode's show notes at tradeshowinsights.com. And if you'd like to join us for an upcoming weekly virtual lunch, you'll find information on that at exhibitmarketerscafe.com/lunch. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, you can subscribe to the podcast and automatically receive future episodes on your chosen device. Simply search for Trade Show Insights in Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or virtually anywhere else that podcasts are found, then click the subscribe button. Trade Show Insights is protected by the Creative Commons copyright license. You may feel free to share this recording with colleagues or embed it on your own blog as long as it's shared in its entirety and is not used for commercial purposes. To learn more, please see the link in the sidebar of the show notes at tradeshowinsights.com. Well, that's it for this episode of Trade Show Insights. Be sure to check out our show notes and archives at tradeshowinsights.com. You can also connect with me using the social media links or the contact page on the site. I'm Marlis Arnold. Thanks for listening, and be sure to join us next time for more tools to improve your exhibit results.